बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। प्यारे बच्चों, अस्सलाम वालेकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू। परान प्लांट फिजियोलॉजी। प्लांट फिजियोलॉजी हूँ ब्याख क्वेश्चन पाथवे ऑफ वाटर मूवमेंट इन रूट। यम सात यह रूट्स मज आब अचान पत् फकान यह फ्राम रूट हेयर on to endodermis, then on to root xylem, then तम पत root xylem to shoot xylem कित पट वातान ये from root xylem on to top of the tree कित पट वातान ये मगर यथ क्वेश्चन मज पर्न how there is a movement of water from root hair cell, that is extension of epidermal cells onto endodermal cells, then onto root xylem. And there are usually three pathways through which water can flow from epidermis to the endodermis of the root. यानी त्रे pathways यमो जरिए यह आब पकान from root hair cell, that's extension of epidermal cells, to the endodermis of the root. First one is that's called apoplast pathway. In this type of pathway, water moves only through the cell wall without crossing any membrane. यानी आब पकान सेल वालों किन cell to cell पकान आब through cell walls without crossing any membrane, that's plasma membrane. And the apoplast is the continuous system of cell walls and intercellular spaces, that is the space between the cells is called intercellular space, that is filled with air. And apoplast is the continuous system of cell walls and intercellular air spaces in plant tissues. यानी apoplastic pathway गई सो pathway यम जरिए आब पकान from root hair cell onto endodermis through cell walls of cells and also intercellular spaces. As you see in this diagram, apoplastic pathway that is shown through green color. You can easily see this apoplastic pathway of root hair cell and then flows through cell to cell through cell walls and intercellular spaces. It is called endodermis tam. Endodermis पद हेक् क्रॉस करित किहिन ये हेक् सेल वालो किन तरित किहिन because of presence of a radial Casparian strip which is impermeable to water because of presence of a substance, secondary wall substance, that's called as suberin. Yum Casparian strip chasan yum chasan a secondary wall deposition, that is suberin, which is impervious to water. So that's why am pat zaruri doyim pathway apnaun, that's called symplast pathway or transmembrane pathway. It is called heki through apoplastic pathway, but beyond that tam pat hekni cell wall can cross kari kihin due to presence of Casparian strips. And yes, coordinate pathway, it is the pathway of least resistance for the passage of water. चूँकि अत कहन ते लिविंग सेल हुंद कंटैक्ट रोजान, कहन ते साइटोप्लाज्म कंटैक्ट रोजान, कहन ते प्रोटोप्लाज्म कंटैक्ट रोजान, that's why it shows least resistance for the passage of water. And since living cells are not involved in this system, that's why water moves either through capillary action or through free diffusion along the gradient. And आब छ पकान from high water potential to low water potential. Doyum second pathway that is found in case of plants, that's called as simplest pathway. In this type of pathway, water travels from one cell to another cell through the plasmodesmatal connections or plasmodesmata. These are small windows between the cells through which there is exchange of material, through which a cell can exchange its material among themselves. And yem satan ye movement of water, a flow of water gets cell to cell through plasmodesmatal connections through these windows. That's my simplest pathway. And simplest pathway, it consists of entire network of cytoplasm connected by plasmodesmata. यानी यह पकान साइटोप्लाज्म पकान यह आब मगर थ्रू पकान यह विंडोज दारि सेलन पान वन we call them as plasmodesmata or plasmodesmatal connections. अमि जरिए आब पकान. As you seen in this diagram very clearly, that is shown with the help of black arrows. And third type of pathway, that's called as transmembrane pathway, wherein water flows from one cell to another cell by crossing plasma membrane. The transmembrane pathway is a route followed by water that sequentially enters a cell on one side, exits the cell on other side, then enters the next in the series and so on. तमें मतलब आब प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन अक साइड अचान बी साइड नेरान अचान बी सेल मज थ्रू प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन बी साइड नेरान इथे पे फ्रॉम वन सेल टू अदर सेल सारे सेल मज थ्रू प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन मूव गसान क्रॉस करान. दैट मीन्स प्रथ कुन सेल मज दो प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन क्रॉस करान entry विज exit विज. In this pathway, water crosses at least two membranes for each cell in its pathway, that is the plasma membrane on entering and on exiting. यानी अचने विज क्रॉस करान प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन and exit विज क्रॉस करान प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन. And transport across the tonoplast. Tonoplast go, it is a membrane that is surrounded by that surrounds this cell vacuole. It पे cell नंबर का cell wall इथे पे cell vacuolus पन अख wall that's called tonoplast. And transport across the tonoplast may be also involved. यानी इस हसा ये vacuole to vacuole गसान अत मज transmembrane cross करान अत मज tonoplast cross करान अकि सेलिक cell vacuole आसान अत पन tonoplast अमस नेरान अचान बी सेल किस cell vacuole मज through tonoplast. That's again transmembrane pathway. In the diagram you can easily see the three pathways. It is a root hair cell. It is a section of a typical root hair wherein you can see it's a typical root hair where either apoplastic pathway or symplastic pathway of water movement occurs. In apoplastic pathway, the clear green color आब पकान from cell to cell मगर without crossing the membranes, without crossing the cells, but it moves along the cell walls and intercellular spaces. It is called endodermis tam watan तम पे क्रॉस करान थ्रू मेम्ब्रेन तम पे flow گژھان through plasmodesmatal connections. That means اَمہِ پَتہٕ چھِ ضروٗری either یہِ چھِ symplastic pathway through پکان یا transmembrane pathway through پکان. And in symplastic pathway, that is represented by black arrow from root hair cell on to then گۄڈٕنیُک چھُ آسان epidermis outermost layer, أتھۍ چھِ آسان درٛامٕتۍ یِم root hairs. تَمہِ پَتہٕ چھِ آسان multi-layered cortex. In this case you have 1 2 3 4 5 layer cortex. اَمہِ کِنۍ چھُ پکان یہِ. Then inner to cortex you have single layered endodermis that is having red color strips. We call them as Casparian strips or radial Casparian strips. Then inside the Casparian strip you have, inside the endodermis you have another layer called as pericycle, and at the center you have vascular tissue that is xylem and phloem. چوٗنٛکہِ روٗٹس منٛز چھُ آسان radial vascular bundle, that's why اَتھ چھِ سیٚدِ سیوٚد from pericycle سیٚدِ سیوٚد آسان کَتھ منٛز xylem منٛز چھُ آب اَژان. because اَتھ منٛز چھُ آسان radial مطلب گوٚو xylem تہٕ phloem چھُ آسان alternately. So that's why اَتھ چھِ سیٚدِ سیوٚد آسان کَتھ منٛز xylem منٛز water, and from root xylem it runs through. اَمہِ پَتہٕ چھِ root xylem پٮ۪ٹھ کوٚت shoot xylem تام واتان as a free continuous column of water. I hope you understand this question nicely. Inshallah, the next lecture we will come with another topic. This calls be Khudai Sawal, be ijazat. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.